Before we get to the substance of whether this call or request was made, you've had a very distinguished career, close to 40 years. In your experience, would it be in any way typical for a president to ask questions or bring up an ongoing FBI investigation, particularly if that investigation concerns associates and individuals that might be associated with the president's campaign or his activities?
So today I am not going to talk about theoreticals. I am not going to discuss the specifics of any interaction or conversations I may or may not. If I could finish, sir, please. That I may or may not have had with the President of the United States, but I will make the following comment. In the 3+ years that I have been the director of the National Security Agency, to the best of my recollection, I have never been directed to do anything I believe to be illegal, immoral, unethical, or inappropriate. And to the best of my recollection, during that same period of service, I do not recall ever feeling pressured to do so.
In your course prior to the incident that we're going to discuss, was it in any regular course where a president would ask you to comment or intervene in any ongoing FBI investigation? Not talking about this circumstance, but any prior experience?
I'm not going to talk about theoreticals today.
Well, let me ask you specifically, did the president, the reports that are out there, ask you in any way, shape, or form to back off or downplay the Russia investigation?
I'm not going to discuss the specifics of conversations with the President of the United States, but I stand by the comment I just made to you, sir.
Do you feel that those conversations were classified? We know that there was an ongoing FBI investigation.
Yes, sir.
There are press reports.
Yes, sir.
I understand your answer. I'm disappointed with that answer, but I may indicate, and I told you I was going to bring this up.
Sure.
We have facts that there were other individuals that were aware of the call that was made to you, aware of the substance of that call, and that there was a memo prepared because of concerns about that call. Will you comment at all?
I stand by the comments that I have made to you today, sir.
So you will not confirm or deny the existence of a memo?
I stand by the comments I have made to you today, sir.
I think it will be essential, Mr. Chairman, that that other individual who's served our country as well with great distinction, who's no longer a member of the administration, has a chance to relay his version of those facts. Again, I understand your position, but I hope you'll also understand the enormous need for the American public to know. You've got the administration saying there's no there. We have these reports, and yet we can't get confirmation. I want to go to you, Director Coates. When you appeared before SASC, you said, and I quote, "If called before the investigative committee, I certainly will provide them with what I know and what I don't know." I have great respect for you. You served on this committee. I remember as well when we confirmed you, and I was proud to support your confirmation. You said that you would cooperate with this committee in any aspects that we request of the Russia investigation. We now have press reports, and you can lay them to rest if they're not true. But we have press reports of not once, but twice, that the President of the United States asked you to either downplay the Russia investigation or to directly intervene with Director Comey. Can you set the record straight about what happened or didn't happen?
Well, Senator, as I responded to a similar question during my confirmation and in a second hearing before the committee, I do not feel it's appropriate for me to, in a public session in which confidential conversations between the President and myself, I don't believe it's appropriate for me to address that in a public session.
Gentlemen, I understand.
I stated that before, and
I thought you also said at SASC, if brought before the investigative committee, you would, quote, certainly provide them with what I know and what I don't know. We are before that investigative committee.
Well, I stand by my previous statement that we are in a public session here, and I do not feel that it's appropriate for me to address confidential information. Most of the information I've shared with the President obviously is directed toward intelligence matters during our oval briefings. every morning at the White House, or most mornings when both the president and I'm in town. But for intelligence-related matters or any other matters that have been discussed, it is my belief that it's inappropriate for me to share that with the public.
And I actually think if what is being said to the media is untrue, then it is unfair to the President of the United States. And if it is, then it is true, that it is something the American people deserve to know, and we as an oversight committee need to know in order to conduct our job. And so my questions are geared to Director Coates and Admiral Rogers. You have testified that you have never felt pressured or threatened by the President or by anyone to influence any ongoing investigation by the FBI. Are you prepared to say that you have never felt, that you've never been asked by the President or the White House to influence an ongoing investigation?
Well, Senator, I just hate to keep repeating this, but I'm going to do it. I am willing to come before the committee and tell you what I know and what I don't know. What I'm not willing to do is to share what I think is confidential information that ought to be protected in an open hearing. And so I'm not prepared to answer your question today.
Director Coates, I would just say, and with incredible respect that I have for you, I am not asking for classified information. I am asking whether or not you have ever been asked by anyone to influence an ongoing investigation.
I understand, but I'm just not going to go down that road in a public forum. And I also was asked the question if the special prosecutor called upon me to meet with him to ask his questions. I said I would be willing to do that.
I likewise stand by my previous comment.
Did Director Comey say that the president had asked for his loyalty?
Sir, I'm not going to comment on conversations the director may have had with the president. I know he's here to testify in front of you tomorrow. You'll have an opportunity to ask him those things.
I'm asking you, did you have that conversation with Director Comey?
And I've responded that I'm not going to comment on those conversations.
Why not?
Because for two reasons. First, as I mentioned, I'm not in a position to talk about conversations that Director Comey may or may not have had with the president.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking about conversations that you had with Director Comey.
And I think that those matters also begin to fall within the scope of issues being investigated by the special counsel, and it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on those today.
So you're not invoking executive privilege, and obviously it's not classified. This is the Oversight Committee. Why would it not be appropriate for you to share that conversation with us?
I think I'll let Director Comey speak for himself tomorrow in front of this committee.
We certainly look forward to that, but I think your unwillingness to share that conversation is an issue. Director Coates, you've said as well that it would be inappropriate to answer a simple question about whether the president asked for your assistance in blunting the Russia investigation. I don't care how you felt. I'm not asking whether you felt pressured. I'm simply asking, did that conversation occur?
And once again, Senator, I will say that I do believe it's inappropriate for me to discuss that in an open session.
You realize, and obviously this is not releasing any classified information, but you realize how simple it would simply be to say, no, that never happened. Why is it inappropriate, Director Coates?
I think conversations between the president and myself are, for the most part...
you seem to apply that standard selectively.
No, I'm not applying it selectively. I'm just saying I don't think it's appropriate.
You can clear an awful lot up by simply saying that never happened.
I do not share with the general public conversations that I have with the president or many of my colleagues within the administration that I believe should not be shared.
Well, I think your unwillingness to answer a very basic question speaks volumes.
I'm puzzled by your refusal to answer Senator Heinrich's question about a conversation you may have had with Director Comey. What's the basis of your refusal to answer that question?
Sir, as I stated, I think first, I can't sit here and tell you whether or not that those conversations that you're referring to.
Why not? Do you not remember them?
No, I'm sorry, sir. I don't know whether conversations along the lines that you've described fall within the purview of what the special counsel is now investigating.
Is there some prohibition in the law that I'm not familiar with that you can't discuss an item and that you've been asked directly a question?
It would not be appropriate for me, sir, to discuss issues that are potentially within the purview of the special counsel's investigation.
And that's the basis of your refusal to answer this question?
Yes, sir. And that, and knowing, of course, that Director Comey will be sitting
So
behind this table
it's your
tomorrow.
position that the special counsel is entitled to ask you questions about this, but not an oversight committee of the United States Congress?
It is my position that I have to be particularly careful about not stepping into the special counsel's lane, as they have now been authorized.
I don't
by the
understand
Department
why
of
the
Justice
special
to
counsel's
investigate
lane
these
takes
matters.
precedence over the lane of the United States Congress and an investigative and oversight committee. Can you explain that distinction? Why does the special counsel get deference and not this committee?
Sir, I'd be happy
Is there
to.
some legal basis for that distinction?
I would be happy to take that matter back to discuss it more fully with my general counsel and with the department, but right now that's the.
On the record, I would like a legal justification for your refusal to answer the question today, because I think it's a straightforward question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not involving discussions with the president. It's involving discussions with Mr. Comey. The gentleman, Mr. Director Coates and Admiral Rogers, I think you testified, Admiral Rogers, that you did discuss today's testimony with someone in the White House.
I said I asked, did the White House intend to evoke executive privileges associated with any interactions between myself and the President of the United States?
And what was the answer to that question?
To be honest, I didn't get a definitive answer, and both myself and the DNI are still talking to the White House.
So then I'll ask both of you the same question. Why are you not answering these questions? Is there an invocation by the President of the United States of executive privilege? Is there or not?
Not that I'm aware of.
Then why are you not answering
Because
our
I feel
questions?
it is inappropriate, Senator.
What you feel isn't relevant, Admiral. What you feel isn't the answer. The answer is, why are you not answering the questions? Is it an invocation of executive privilege? If there is, then let's know about it. If there isn't, answer the questions.
I stand by the comments I've made. I'm not interested in repeating myself, sir. And I don't mean that in a contentious way.
Well, I do mean it in a contentious
Yes,
way. I don't understand why you're not answering our questions. You can't. When you were confirmed before the Armed Services Committee, you took an oath. Do you solemnly swear to give the committee the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. You answered yes to that.
And I've also answered that those conversations were classified, and it is not appropriate in an open forum to discuss those classified conversations.
What is classified about a conversation involving whether or not you should intervene in the FBI investigation?
Sir, I stand by my previous comments.
Mr. Coates, same series of questions. What's the basis for your refusal to answer these questions today?
The basis is what I've previously explained. I do not believe it is appropriate for me to.
What's the basis? I'm not satisfied with I do not believe it is appropriate or I do not feel I should answer. I want to understand a legal basis. You swore that oath to tell us the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and today you are refusing to do so. What is the legal basis for your refusal to testify to this committee?
I'm not sure I have a legal basis, but I'm more than willing to sit before this committee and during its investigative process in a closed session and answer your question.
Well, we're going to be having a closed session in a few hours. Do you commit to me that you're going to answer these questions in a direct and unencumbered way?
Well, that closed session you're going to have in a few hours involves the staff going over the technicalities of a number of these issues and doesn't involve us. But
well, is it your testimony that when
you
you were before this committee in a closed session, you will answer these questions directly and unequivocally and without hesitation?
I plan to do that, but I do have to work through the legal counsel at the White House relative to whether or not they're going to exercise executive.
Admiral Rogers, will you answer these questions in a closed session?
I likewise respond as the DNI has. I certainly hope that that is what happens. I believe that's the appropriate thing. But I do have to acknowledge, because of the sensitive nature and the executive privilege aspects of this, I need to be talking to the general counsel in the White House. I hope we come to a position where we can have this dialogue. I welcome that dialogue, sir.
I hope so, too. And I would just add, in conclusion, that both of you testified you had never been pressured under 3 years. I would argue that you have waived executive privilege by, in effect, testifying as to something that didn't happen And I believe you opened the door to these questions, and it is my belief that you are inappropriately refusing to answer these questions today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The way I'm hearing all of you gentlemen is that Mr. Mueller has not waved you off from answering any of these questions. Is that correct?
I've had no conversations with Mr. Mueller. I've been out of the country for the last 9 days, and I haven't had an opportunity.
Have any of you
to talk to him.
had, because if you've not had questions waved off with Mr. Mueller, I think, frankly, and I understand your commitment to the administration, but that Senator King, Senator Heinrich, and my questions deserve answers, and at some point the American public deserves full answer. And the way I'm hearing all of you gentlemen is that Mr. Mueller has not waved you off from answering any of these questions. Is that correct?
I've had no conversations with Mr. Mueller. I've been out of the country for the last 9 days, and I haven't had an opportunity.
Have any of you
to talk to him.
had, because if you've not had questions waved off with Mr. Mueller, I think, frankly, and I understand your commitment to the administration, but that Senator King, Senator Heinrich, and my questions deserve answers, and at some point the American public deserves full answers.
I'm going to ask Mr. Rosenstein to address that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sensitive to your desire to keep our answers brief, and my full answer actually would be very lengthy. But my brief answer, from my perspective with the Department of Justice, and I've been there for 27 years, and Mr. McCabe also is a career employee of the Department of Justice, our default position is that when there's a Justice Department investigation, we do not discuss it publicly. That's our default rule, so nobody needs to.
Is that the rule for the President of the United States as well?
I don't know what.
Because that is what the questions are being asked about. Reports that nobody has laid the rest here, that the President of the United States has intervened directly in an ongoing FBI investigation, and we've gotten no answer from any of you. And frankly, we've at least heard from Director Coates and Admiral Rogers that they've not been asked to recuse an answer because of Director Mueller. And I don't understand why we can't get that answer.
So I'm not answering for Director Rogers or Director Coates. I'm answering for Director McCabe and myself with regard to the Department of Justice.
Senator Langford.